Alright, we're back again, and just some preparation stuff. That's the drawing which you may have seen in the part 2 video. This very thin area, one or two people have pointed out just how thin it is, and they also noticed how there was actually some more clearance available, and I made some notes here and some measuring. It would appear that the width, which was 860, I can extend that to 900. I can go another 20 thou each side happily. The shoulders here will still have to be profile, there's no doubt about that, get clearance because of this shape, but on top I can go from, let me see, this was about 1085, well, I can add about 50 thou on there. I'm now going to reckon on, I've written down 1.660, so we'll definitely leave a bit more meat on top. And that'll avoid the thread showing through as it did. I've made comments to one or two people, and I suspect this nut was the second one, if the machine is, as I think, about 60 years old. So somebody made this one and it was convenient, so we'll improve on it slightly. I've now got to look for my thread cutting tools, if I've still got them, either that or grind some up. And I've got some material, let's just have a look at that. Fortunately, I not only have the 1-inch square brass, which I've had for a while, which is good news, and the round bar here is actually 3/4. Most of my stuff's metric these days, but this is 3/4, and I haven't checked it for truth yet. In fact, we can do that in a minute on the roller blocks. Now, inch square on the diagonal exceeds 1 1/16, which is my spindle diameter, so we can't put this through from the back end or put it through the chuck and into the spindle, so it's going to have to be a little bit wasteful. I've got 2.5 inches available inside the chuck, and it'll be the 4-jaw, pretty obviously, and I need about 1.5 inches to work with. So in essence, see this Sharpie mark, I'm going to more or less cut it across almost into 2 pieces, and we'll work from that. I'm just doing a real quick check here without putting this in the lathe to see. It was also very corroded, so I've had to use the wire wheel on it. Going by eye, that looks pretty good. I might just try actually. I say this should be on a surface plate, but I'm just going for a quick estimate. I'm probably getting in my own way as usual. And you might see now, somebody asked me what the roller blocks were for. Well, this is one example of how useful they can be. You see that dial gauge moving? May or may not, I can't tell. But this is graduated metric, so that run out's probably only about 1 thou, and that's quite acceptable. There's nothing worse than getting out a piece of material, popping it in the lathe, and finding it runs all over the place, because you want something like a lead screw to be pretty true. Well, joy of joys, after all these years, because I did the other cross slide lead screw about 20 years ago, I should think. However, lo and behold, I've got the boring bar, the little piece of 3/16 tool steel. Just needs freshened up slightly with the diamond lap, and likewise the male cutting tool. As my regular watchers will know, I just love hacksawing. Not. Excuse me. Anyway, we're nearly through this piece. I have a piece of cardboard underneath because I always catch the chips. Got up a little bottle of brass shavings, chips, whatever. Very useful for brazing. Hate wasting it. So we're nearly through. I'm going to get my hand in the way now. It's inevitable. Here we are. Right, well, we've marked that up. The centre pop. Just getting close to set up here. That's minus. That's actually half a thou. We're reading metric. Okay, we've got that centered now, and I just started taking a light cut to get away from the square, and we'll just put a little bit of that on. Temperatures dropped dramatically, so I'm not going to be in here for long now. To pick up on this tomorrow if I can get the time. Just a quick interim. I've got a cloth under here to collect all the chips, and I actually keep a piece of cardboard here most of the time to deflect chips back in, but we're just getting down to the round now, and I meant to mention I'm only hand feeding on this, taking about 20 thou each time, which is enough. Right, I'll put my cardboard back. Right, well we're down to, let's just check again. I got a measurement just a minute ago, and that's down to 410. So we haven't got too far to go. So what we're going to do is just take this, get this down to size, small face off of the flat area there, and then do we'll drill and tap and then reduce the length of that spigot to suit what we actually need. Taking 5 thou. Any small cuts gets a bit critical at this stage. Right, I had a job measuring that last bit. I've just taken a final cut there, which should get us on the money, and we'll see. Oh, that's exactly on 375. It's probably half a thou shy of what I want for getting in the hole, but I'm going to leave it slightly oversized. It'll take a tiny amount to dress that up if it's a bit tight. Right, let's clean that up. Now we'll bore this out and get it tapped. I'll just put a centre drill in here, and then we'll go to 13/64 and tap it. Alright, now we've got to check depth on here. Don't want to go in too far. It should be just over 3/4. I'll just check it real quick and see if we got the right amount. Alright, 75760, happy with that. Just want to set up and get a thread in that. You're going to tend to be in the way here. I'm just doing this with the spindle handle. Got a couple of turns started from the tailstock, just a small tap wrench, gives me a bit more feel. Good old squeaky brass. Let's check one more time here. We'll leave it at that. I can always use a bottoming tap later if I need another little bit at the bottom. Alright, that's almost done. We've just got to face that off to the correct length. Well, it's another day, and having reviewed footage from the last bit of work on this, it was pretty much a disaster. I don't know why I got my arm in the way 90% of the time, I think, plus autofocus problems. So what's preceded this will probably have been edited down to very, very little. But what we've got anyway, just as a recap, we've got this spigot turned to diameter and length. It's 375. May need a small relief before it goes in the hole. We've drilled and tapped, and now we've just got to take this off the main chunk. And I've got a slight mark here, and in order to get this partied off, I'm going to relieve with a round nose tool. A little bit wasteful. I'm just going to relieve the square and get down to something like round. Then it'll probably be hacksaw again, so I'm not going to bother you with too much of that. Rather crude way of doing things, but then you may be used to that with me by now. So I'm going to finish that off, go in a bit deeper, and then we'll just hacksaw that off. We'll turn it round and face off the side. I've taken things down to round. I'm actually using another old trick. I've got one larger parting tool which has been freshened up a bit. I'm just doing this by hand. I could do a power feed, but I'm just using hand with a fairly light feed on the cross slide. It'll take a little while, but it's easier than hacksawing, and I think this blade will deal with it. So let's get that down to the end. Matter of fact, we're just touching the we're just touching the parting tool shoulder, so I'll have to finish that with a hacksaw. Not unusual. Doesn't leave me much to cut anyway. It's a pretty deep penetration. Yeah, it's a pretty deep cut, this one. I'll just finish that off. There we are. You can see there wasn't that much left. And the piece itself, there's the spigot end. I'm fairly happy with that. And then I've left loads of spare. And you've got to machine that off. Right, I've put the piece back in here. I've bothered to centre it. Not that it's too important. I'm only machining off this front face, top face I should say, and we're adding 50 thou over and above what it used to be, which was, let me check the drawing, I made a note on here, it was a 520, we've added 50 thou nominal. Let's just touch off. As you can see, it wasn't quite on centre still, but close enough for the purposes here. So I'm going to take that down. It's got a lot of material to remove. Well, we're just about coming up to the Sharpie here. So I'll just take one more, another 5 thou. Right, you can just see the last of the Sharpie, so we'll go with that. And yeah, it's annoying that wasn't quite on centre. I thought I'd set it up alright, but it's not important, just for machining off. Now we've got to do a couple of sides and reduce those down by 50 thou each side, I think. So that's probably the next step. Right, well, we've got this on its side. I did mark up a centre close to it. Try and be fairly centered, although just machining off is not critical. So we've got about 50 thou to come off and a scribe line there. We've got another 25-30 to go, so I'm just showing a bit of this stage, and then we'll finish this side, do the other side, and then the more critical part, marking up for the square thread. Right, so we're going to take a bit more off this side now. I've got about another 10 to go, so I'll just take another cut on that, and we'll go to the other side and carry on from there. Just to mention, I got the last cut on this side, another 5 thou. I'm being pretty careful actually, because I've got to be the same both sides, so that we're equispaced from the spigot, otherwise the thread will be out of line. So this is just the last 5 thou, then we'll turn it round and do the other bit. I increased from 860. I was going to make it 860 to 900. It's actually 910. After I'd done the first side, I left it slightly plus, so I've had to be a bit plus on the other side so that we're fairly balanced. Alright, this is where we are now. Very reflective material. The bottom, yeah, you can see a chuck mark on both sides there, which I'm not worrying about. It's only cosmetic. So I've got to mark this up now, clean the edges, mark it up for boring out for the thread hole. Right, well, we'll just set up on the forge yaw again, and we're right on the money for centre for the threaded hole. So hopefully now we can get on with it a bit. It's surprising actually how much is involved making a nut. And precision's pretty important here. Let's just see if this runs up true. That looks pretty good. So we've got a 3/8 stub drill, and we're going to run that through and then use the boring bar to open out to 400. That may not have stayed focused. I think I'm going to try some manual focus so I can see what I'm doing. Right, I'm trying manual focus. I'm fed up with this autofocus. It's ruined so many shots. It's terrible. Anyway, we're slightly on the way on this stub drill. 3/8, so let's carry on with that, see if we stay in focus. Sorry, I'm terrible getting my hands in. Oh, I'm doing it again. Sometimes Keith Fenner's really got the knack of. He's really got the knack of camera angles, and his shop's pretty full of stuff. But he seems to get some great shots. Anyway, there we are. That's the 3/8 hole, and now we're going to set up the boring bar and bring that out to size. Right, we've got to bore this out now, get this out to 400. Unfortunately, the my smallest telescope gauge, or snap gauge, as Keith Fenner calls them, that won't go down to the small size. So I've got three options. One is using the calipers, but in order to get close, one way of checking as I go is a couple of number drills, an X and a W, or W and an X, and the X finishes up at 397, which is 3 thou short of what we want. So I'm using these as go no go gauges. Really might be unorthodox, but anyway, let's get on with some boring here. Boring. And we've got to go, let me see, 25, 24, 12. I'll take a couple of 5/3 cuts and then check it out. Manual feed, by the way. I don't know how other people find it, but with small boring bars which have got a bit of spring in them, I back out taking a cut so that I get the full amount. That should have been 5/3 and give me a 10/3 increase, which we'll check. To watch out for my arm in the way here. Let's bring that back and try and just check this real quick. I like to do it in situ instead of pulling it out, so we got to come in pretty close here. It's pretty critical. Right, well, after some slight problems with the boring bar, which wasn't quite radiused properly, I had to grind that. So we got to the go no go stage. Here's the number drill, letter drill. That's an X. That's an X, so that means that's 397. So I've just got a smidgen to go. And I'll check with the dial gauge, sorry, not the dial gauge, the verniers as well. Just make sure that we're on target there. I've got to get the jaws very well in on this to make sure. And we are, yep, 3 thou. So I'm going to take a small cut just to finish. And then next job would be threading, which I think will be on another occasion, because I've got to freshen up the boring bar that has the tooling in it, and also it's none too warm in this dear old shop of mine. So we'll just get this last 3 thou off. One final bit of fun at the end of this session, before we do some thread cutting. There you have a fairly substantial pile of brass chips and bits, and some coarser stuff over there, which I keep separate. That's quite a lot to come out of a stupid little nut, isn't it? But as I've said before, it's very useful for some brazing jobs.